What if Adam wasn't the first? What if the Garden of Eden was not the beginning, but the aftermath of something catastrophic? And what if the Bible, the book you thought you knew, is still hiding a cosmic secret in its very first line? In Genesis 1:1 it says, "In the beginning God created the heavens and the earth." But in the very next verse, "The earth was without form and void, and darkness was over the face of the deep." That's not creation, that's aftermath. The Hebrew calls it tohu vabohu, a phrase used elsewhere in Scripture, only when God is bringing judgment. So here's the question, nobody's asking. What was judged before Adam was even made? Job 38 says that when God laid the foundations of the earth, the morning stars sang together and all the sons of God shouted for joy. But Adam wasn't created yet. So who were these sons of God and what were they witnessing? Could there have been a world before this world, a civilization before Adam? O garden of God, blameless until wickedness was found in you. Ezekiel 28:13-15. But how was he in Eden before Adam? Something doesn't add up, unless Eden, the first Eden, existed before Adam, unless the fall of that angelic prince predates the fall of man. What if the true origin of Earth's chaos wasn't a natural event, but a supernatural judgment? If that's true, then Adam was not the beginning, he was the restart. He was not made into an empty world, he was planted in the ashes of one. And suddenly the narrative shifts. Genesis becomes not just a beginning, but a redemption story from its very first breath. But who were these beings that came before Adam? And what role did they play in Earth's forgotten past? Get ready. Because in the next chapter we meet the ones Scripture calls the sons of God, and they were there before the foundations of the world. Chapter 2. Before Adam, who roamed the earth, when the morning stars sang together and all the sons of God shouted for joy. Job 38:7. But wait, if Adam was the first man, then who were the sons of God already rejoicing at the creation of the earth? This verse, hidden in plain sight in the book of Job, exposes a crack in our timeline. Before Eden was planted, before dust became flesh, there were others. They were watching, and they were rejoicing. These sons of God, Bnei Ha-Elohim in Hebrew, appear not only in Job, but in Genesis 6, the Psalms, and the book of Daniel. They are not metaphor, they are not mythology, they are heavenly beings, angelic, radiant, ancient. But some of them did not remain loyal. The ancient book of Enoch, a text respected by early Jews and quoted in the New Testament, tells of a group called the Watchers. Originally sent by God to observe and guard the earth, they were heavenly stewards, not demons, not fallen, but trusted sentinels. But something changed. Enoch names them, describes them. 200 of them, led by a chief named Semjaza, descended onto Mount Hermon, and there they broke the boundary between the divine and the human. They saw the daughters of men, and they took them as wives, and they taught them secrets, forbidden knowledge that had never been meant for mortals. From this union came something unnatural, not angel, not man, but giants called the Nephilim. And it all began with a betrayal. They were not myth, they were rebels with heaven's DNA. The Watchers weren't monsters to begin with. They were holy, ordained, but they abandoned their posts. What began as guardianship became obsession. What began as loyalty turned into lust. And here's the twist. The term watcher implies surveillance, protection, and judgment. They were not simply passive observers. They had authority. They had mandates, which means the world before Adam wasn't simply empty. It was under management. Beings walked the earth before mankind, intelligent, powerful, and some fell. Some scholars believe that these watchers may have been connected to the chaos described in Genesis 1:2, that their rebellion helped trigger the devastation that led to a void-darkened earth. Their fall was so catastrophic that God would later imprison them in the abyss, bound in chains in gloomy darkness until the judgment of the great day. Jude 1:6. But what if some traces of their influence still linger? Ancient structures, forbidden technology, relics that don't match any timeline. They walked before us, and some say they're still trying to return. So before you assume Adam was alone, ask yourself, what if he was placed into a world already haunted? Coming up next.